Good morning. My name is Stevie Ferguson, and I wanted to start out my testimony with a Bible verse. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be discouraged, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. Isaiah 41:10. Coming to know Christ was not a one-day realization to me. It took me years to surrender to the Lord. Over the years, I always had this verse somehow come up in my life, and even today. Growing up, I went to a small Baptist church in school. I knew about Jesus from a very young age and was baptized at 8 years old. I believed in God, but as I got older, I forgot about him, and my actions never showed Christ loving through me. I was mean to kids and my family. I had no regret or care about how I treated people. After I switched schools, I stopped following God completely for over 2 years. During this time, I thought it was fun not to follow God, but in reality, it left me lonely and angry most of the time. I felt like there was no God. I didn't believe if there was a God that he would allow me to have this emptiness in my life that I felt. I went from going to church 2 times a week to refusing to talk about Jesus all within a few months. Throughout these years, I had friends who would ask me every single week to come to Crossroads. I told these people no, and I came up with excuses, new ones every single week. I forced myself to refuse to even give God a chance in my life. I believed that he walked out on me, when in reality, if I just would have turned back around, he was right there beside me the whole time. Sorry, I lost my spot. Only when school and friendships got hard did I tell my friends yes, that I would go only once. I thought since my life was so low, it couldn't get any worse, so why not give it a chance? Little did I know God used my hardest times for the biggest blessing in my life, then and throughout my testimony. The second I walked through the doors of Crossroads, I felt loved through a church. It was the first time where I saw strangers excited to see me like I was a weekly member. To say I was confused but pleasantly surprised was an understatement. I am so grateful for the teens and the leaders at youth group today. I don't know if I would be here wanting to give my testimony today and how Jesus has worked in my life if God didn't bless me with my second family. After going to youth group, I came home questioning the lies everyone told me were true. The first thing I did was look up Christian songs and sat in my bed playing them over and over again. Even as I started uncovering God's truth, I cannot tell you that is when I started believing again, because it wasn't. When I went to youth group week after week for months, only believing on Sunday nights. I never tried furthering my connection with him beyond what Rich would teach us. Looking back while I was writing my testimony, I realized God was slowly opening my heart for him. When COVID hit, I slowly began to read my Bible again. But within months, I stopped after I was overwhelmed with getting behind on online school and not understanding where to read in my Bible. I kept finding myself following the Lord and then walking away within a few months after. Even when the church opened back up, when my life was good, I found no desire to follow the Lord. But then last year, something drastically changed. While I cannot pinpoint what it was, all of a sudden, 3 years after only attending Dive, I felt a pull to go to church in the morning. The first sermon I went to was Good Friday. That Easter I was not at church. I was at the hospital where my mom was having heart surgery. After seeing my mom going through all these difficult times, growing up, it always scared me of the outcome. Because COVID, we were unable to stay at the hospital for long. I was at my brother's house while my mom was at the hospital, and the only thing I could do was pray. I am thankful for my mom is still here to celebrate with me today on my baptism. Prayer became my weapon that week and now. Again, God used the time where I was at my lowest to guide me back to joy. After my mom was better, I started coming to church every week. Soon I signed up to help in the kids' ministry. I saw the joy these kids have had at Crossroads. I still do when I come back there to help. I would go home and pray for them week after week, hoping that their love for God continues to grow. God showed me that I need a childlike faith in my life. This love that the kids have to learn about him and the amazement in their eyes when they learned how God did all these miraculous things showed me that I wanted to hear the stories that I vaguely remembered as a child. I started reading my Bible day after day, week after week. I became more active in my youth group in church. I leaned on God first when something went out of plan, but leaning on God came after countless Sundays of being so overwhelmed by emotions, I cried through the songs. The Sundays I sat somewhere after church crying in the back. The Sundays where I had someone to cry to. The Sundays where I was confused why I was even here at this church or why I was even still having a faith. The Sundays I went to church not even paying attention because I still had this small resistance of following Christ, even though I was trying to follow him. August came and I stayed there for a while. August 17th, my friend moved away and I didn't handle it well. I didn't want to go to church. I stopped talking to God for many days. All I did was cry. And when I started letting go of my anger, August 21st, just 2 weeks after, my best friend of 7 years passed away in a car accident. The world stopped for a moment. The only person who knew everything about me since we were 10 were gone. The person I sat by in class every day prior would never be sitting by me again. The days that passed, and all I would do is cry. I found myself staring at a wall for hours for the first time. When I went to school, I didn't go to the classes we shared for weeks. My prayers that only a week prior were praise shifted to hatred. I only talked to God when I wanted to tell him what he did was cruel and wrong. I remember telling my parents on the way home from the funeral that I wanted biblical counseling, and they agreed. I told them I felt myself sliding downhill and I was scared. I was scared to sleep, to laugh, to ride in cars, to talk, to even listen, but I was terrified to find the joy without her. A few weeks later, I started biblical counseling with Liz and Carmen. The way God used biblical counseling was a complete 360 in my life. I thank God for putting Carmen and Liz in my life, for I cannot even begin to express how big they are in my life. Counseling was not easy for me. There was weeks where I didn't do much, but God still worked in me. I started running to God. I started talking to God. My hatred prayers turned back into praise over the months. I learned to control my emotions and my actions through Christ from the tools counseling gave me. When I surrendered my broken heart to the Lord, he healed me the way the world doesn't understand. When counseling ended, I felt ready. God worked through our biggest battles. My relationship with God has only grown since camp. February, our youth group went to Miracle Camp for the weekend, and I felt the love of Christ then and even now. I get excited to come to church every Sunday and build best friends within our youth group and church. This has only grown since August. God used my messy life for his greater plan. I pray for everyone who is going through a mess right now to trust in his plan, to give it all to him, because when you do, you find joy even within the mess. Today and every day, I'm proud to proclaim that I am a daughter of the King.
Stevie, your story is amazing. I can't listen to it without tearing up, and it's been a pleasure for all of us to walk with you and to watch you grow, and we're excited to baptize you today. Let's do it. Hey, look, you are tall enough.
I was scared about that, actually. I was asking if I need a stepladder today.
Stevie, based on your profession of faith and evidence of God working in your life and your belief in him, it is my pleasure today to baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.